In the dark, dark tomb there was a dark, dark street, and in the dark, dark street there was a dark, dark office. In the dark, dark office there were some dark, dark stairs, and down the dark, dark stairs there was a dark, dark room, and in the dark, dark room was where the worst wrestling tropes go to die.
Hello there, I'm Ross Tweddell from Cultaholic, and welcome to the latest instalment of Straight to Hell, the show where we find out what the people of the wrestling world want to see get sent straight down to the disturbing depths of the hell. Joining us today, to the utter delight of Matthew Gregg from the Cultaholic Wrestling Podcast, is Danhausen. Without any further ado, let's see what Danhausen wants to send down straight to hell. Over to you, Ross and Danhausen. So we are joined by Mr. Danhausen. Danhausen, how the hell are you doing?
Good, hello, this is Danhausen. How do you do?
Yes, lovely, thank you. Do I need to get a bit of admin out the way first? Do I need to get rid of the hell? Is that word okay? Or
yes, it's a place, it's a location, so it's quite all right.
That's all right then, so no need to rename it straight to Heckhausen. That's what I've got written down on my notes.
Hell, it's a wonderful place. You ever been?
No, never. I never want to go, to be honest with you. Do you?
It's warm. It's cold right now.
So you've been?
I've been, yes. I frequent. Once a year at least.
Is Saddam Hussein and a massive devil there?
Never heard of him.
I saw that on the TV once.
No, I don't think so.
So recently you worked with Ring of Honor.
Yes.
You got invited back, is the last we heard on the internet. So where do we stand now? Is that still the case, or?
Well, Danhausen doesn't have another date for them yet, so he's just waiting for his a letter to come in the mail to say, hey, come back to Ring of Hausen.
Is that how they do their business there? Just letters through the post?
Yes, they send a letter, a handwritten letter that says, hello, Danhausen, how are you doing? Would you like to come back to Ring of Honor? And then they give me a location.
That's very old-fashioned of them. Quite romantic
in
a way.
Yes, quite nice.
And obviously, teeth. We've got to get on to teeth. One of the big talking points in the wrestling world this week has been about teeth. I don't know if you saw it, but Shayna Baszler on Raw, she bit Becky Lynch in the neck.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Shayna Baszler's teeth?
That.
Sorry?
Danhausen approved. Danhausen loves it.
Yeah, what do you think of Shayna Baszler's teeth?
Everybody.
Do you want Shayna Baszler's teeth? Would you put them in a bag and use them in a match?
Yeah, I could put them. Well, no. I put them next to David Arquette's teeth.
Oh.
Yes, they're in the Celebrity Hall of Fame of teeth in Danhausen's home.
Lovely stuff. How'd you get David Arquette's teeth?
Has he ever sent you teeth?
No, never.
I'll tell him to send you some teeth.
How'd you get to the status where you get sent David Arquette's teeth?
Well, RJ City says, hello, David Arquette would like to send you a gift. And then I gave him my address. And then I got David Arquette's teeth.
Bloody hell.
Right in the mail.
I'll be calling RJ City then. And just finally, before we get going. Sorry?
Nice little note. Said nice things about Danhausen. That he misses him.
And just before we get going, WrestleMania weekend, I believe you have a show, WrestleVania.
Yes.
Talk to us a bit about that, because I've heard there's going to be sacrifices. Is that right?
Yes. We have a sacrifice to Satan. From hell.
When someone loses a match, is going to get sacrificed?
Yes, we have Shazza McKenzie versus Alley Bat.
Right. And
I believe Warhorse wants Shazza McKenzie to be sacrificed, but we'll see what happens.
Could you tell us any more about the sacrifice and how it's going to be done? Is it going to be a dagger to the heart, or?
We'll let Satan have free reign of what he feels to do.
And of course, you could just call him because you've been to hell.
Yes, we got a cell phone number.
So there we go. There's the bit of preamble out the way. Let's get cracking with the knacking and see what Danhausen wants to send straight down to hell. And or heck. Right then, Danhausen, your first offering to get sent straight down to hell.
Danhausen sends Spirit airline flights for wrestlers. Have you ever heard of Spirit?
Never, ever. Tell us more.
Never. It's a cheap airline that does not include any baggage fees, and then the wrestlers themselves usually get stuck with the bill. And then half the time, the flights get delayed.
So companies don't then pick up, because companies must know when they book that flight, that service, that, the bags aren't included, so they don't pick it up?
Yes, they should. Sometimes they pretend to not read things, and then you get stuck with the bill.
Yeah, that's a bit of a kick in the arse, isn't it?
Yes. Do you have anything relatable to that?
I guess Ryanair would be the most relatable thing over here.
I'll make sure to tell people if I come to the UK to not do that.
Yeah, I'm sure, I can say with pretty good confidence, just avoid Ryanair at all costs, even though I'm using that service to go to Prague later this year. Anyway.
It sounds like the exact same thing. Most times, Danhausen's flights have been cancelled completely after 8 hours.
Bloody hell. What do you do there? Just panic? Just cry?
You just go home, I guess. I don't know. No
So
wrestling happens, that's for sure.
How often does this happen?
Usually Danhausen says absolutely not to these spirit flights. So they don't happen too often anymore, but every once in a while one will slip through.
I just find it amazing that wrestling companies would use that service to begin with. Like, even consider it when we know wrestlers will be traveling with bags.
You want the wrestlers to get delayed and not show up.
So I've got to ask as well, your bag, what's in it?
Well, they've got the Spruce Moose, which Danhausen helps fly there, the tiny airplane. We have the teeth. We have it's in a bag called Danhausen's Bag of Tricks. We have the mason jars. We have a little makeup to touch up Danhausen's face if this starts to fade a bit.
Is that not au naturel?
No, it's all natural, but I touch it up like regular makeup,
Yeah.
like anyone would do. And then it's nice sweaters in there if I'm not wearing it. Isn't this lovely?
Where'd you buy it from?
It is.
Yeah.
Thrift shops. Those are nice. Danhausen gets all of his thrift shopping. Look at these boots. Got stuff on the bottom.
How much are you paying for them?
These were from Dr. Martin, I believe.
Also, they're expensive.
Yes, these ones were expensive. Danhausen used his wrestling earnings.
I bet it'll hurt if you got kicked with one of them. I got kicked with one of them once, and it was
Well, I
awful.
kick many people. I pour the teeth in their face, and then I kick them in the face with these Dr. Martin boots.
Yeah, I got kicked in the arse with one once, and that was enough.
Who did that?
Adam Pacitti. I lost a thing on the channel here, and he hoofed me up the arse. He did.
You want Danhausen to find him?
Yes, please. Can you take his teeth
All
out?
right. Will do. Get Danhausen an Orion flight there, and he will come and boot him in the face for you.
I will do. I've just got to ask as well. Could you tell us some more about your backdrop there? What's going on behind you?
This is there's lights. There's a nice painting.
Who's
Yeah, it's Michael Myers. You know him from
Yeah,
Austin
I've heard him.
Powers. Yes, it's from the Austin Powers and all those sorts. Yes, it's many collections of items that Danhausen has found at the thrifting.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a fantastic
it's
advert for
nice and
thrift
lovely.
shopping.
Do you not appreciate it?
No, it's a very nice aesthetic. Might get a bit
Excellent.
scary when it's a bit dark, though, is it not?
Well, we'll keep the lights on for you.
So I can fully appreciate where you're coming from here with flights. You know, I presume when you're taking bookings, that's the first thing you want just sorted. Nice and easy, no issues to travel. And when you get issues with the travel, nothing could be worse.
Is that too much to ask for? I don't think so.
Absolutely not, so it's gone down to hell. Right then, so there we go. Flights from Spirit, was it called? They're in hell.
Airlines.
They're
I
in
believe
hell.
Frontier Airlines is terrible too, but I've never been there.
Which one was that, sorry?
Frontier.
So Frontier and Spirit, avoid at all costs, as well as Ryanair. Even though Ryanair can be all right at times, I guess, but Spirit and Frontline, avoid at all costs. What's your second offering, please, Danhausen?
Never. Send me on the Spruce Moose or a blimp.
I can't imagine you
Hire
on a
the
blimp.
personal blimp. That's what Danhausen has been trying to get from Ring of Honor.
I imagine they're quite expensive.
That's not my problem. That's their problem.
Just take some of that Marty Scale money, put it in a blimp.
I have money, yes. All money from others to get Danhausen a blimp.
So what's your second offering to go straight down to hell?
The winter. Have you ever driven in the winter?
I've
Long
driven-
distance?
I can't imagine it's the same winter as you have over there in Americas and whatnot.
It's the worst. Danhausen has almost crashed the car. This is why Danhausen requires a blimp. In the wintertime, many a times. And sometimes he misses his booking. That's happened a couple times due to ice.
Yeah, I can't imagine there being many things
Down
worse
to
than-
hell, sort of melt.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the issue, isn't it? That's the resolution, isn't it? Just send it all down to hell, the ice melts, and you're fine.
Yes. It's terrible. It's just nonstop. Takes a 5-hour drive, a 4-hour drive, could take up to 10 hours.
Yeah. And I suppose it is just a thing that... Is there any sort of concessions put in place by wrestling companies when, you know, the conditions are adverse outside? Or is it just sort of get there, don't moan about it?
It depends. Sometimes they'll say, get here when you can, but sometimes some people I don't think are quite as nice when you miss your booking due to a snowstorm.
So what's the worst storm
What?
you've ever had?
What are you to do? It took Danhausen about 12 hours to get to a show.
Bloody
We missed
hell.
it.
Where were you
He
going
was with,
from and to?
Jake something, I believe, was in the car. If you guys are familiar with Jake something, he's a TNA superstar.
Jake
Impact.
something. Hager.
No, not Jake Hager. Jake something.
Oh, his name's
Much
Jake
stronger.
something. Sorry.
Much, much stronger.
I find that hard to believe. Jake Hager was the life and soul of 5-star wrestling, have you know?
No Jake Hager for this.
Do you ever hear of 5-star wrestling?
I have.
Do you
is
ever wonder?
Is that the silly wrestling?
Yeah, it was silly.
Danhausen hasn't seen this one yet.
Do you ever wonder what could have been if you were there?
Is this like the Botchamania?
Oh yeah, Matthew loves it. Me and Matthew are like the biggest fans.
Danhausen loves Matthew. Very nice.
Matthew loves you.
Very good. Very nice. Danhausen likes to hear this. Local internet celebrity Matthew loves Danhausen.
I like Matthew as well. He's all right. We do a podcast together. He bigs you up all the time on the podcast.
I listen to this podcast.
Do you?
I have, yes. It was quite nice. You had some blurbs about Danhausen in it.
He dressed.
I believe it was around October.
He dressed as you as Halloween. Halloween. He did.
He sent Danhausen a photo of this. It was quite nice.
What do you think?
You look good. You did good makeup time.
It was a bit more smudged than yours.
Danhausen's natural face.
I don't know what else to say about traveling in the snow. It is just it's
just awful. It's cold. It's dangerous. Don't do it. Wrestling should be taken off in the Midwest and wherever else it's cold. January and February.
Have you ever had to sort of change how you got to somewhere because of the weather?
One time we just stayed in a hotel instead. We didn't even make it to the show. So then Danhausen loses his human money.
Oh, well, that's no good.
No. The Fanhausens don't get to see Danhausen, and then Danhausen loses his lined pockets.
So
it's not nice.
Yeah. Adverse weather conditions, snow, ice, all of that, straight down to hell. Nothing else to say, really, is there?
That's terrible.
So there we have it. Certain airlines and the snow and ice and all sorts are in hell. Danhausen, what is your third offering, please?
Swearing. Send swearing straight to hell.
I thought this might be coming. That's why I asked you to start about hell.
Let me explain this. I think people get confused why Danhausen doesn't like swearing. Because swearing will get you taken off of the air. The television air. Yes? Is this correct in most cases?
That's correct, yeah.
Danhausen goes in the locker rooms, and usually the rules say no swearing, no middle fingers, which is a finger swear. And Danhausen needs to be on every single TV, every single internet output to become the most famous intergalactic celebrity there is.
So
Danhausen does not tolerate swearing in his match because it'll get taken off the air and then he won't be seen by millions.
I mean, you make a very compelling case there. Just to play devil's advocate.
Quite feasible.
Yeah, just to play devil's advocate. What about, when you get to sort of the last hours of a show, maybe you're in the main event, and someone drops a cheeky S-bomb.
What does S stand for?
I can't say it myself.
You'll get taken off the air? No.
It rhymes with tit.
Huh. And a swear?
No, it's a body part.
Okay, that's acceptable. Pass granted.
So what's your thoughts on dropping a cheeky S-bomb?
Danhausen grants a swear pass every so often for people that he likes. You can get one.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes, there you go. And I suppose if it's the main event and it's called for, Danhausen will collect a small fee and you can say the S word.
How much?
$6.66.
Do you want to put the price a bit higher?
Why? Should I?
Yeah, of course you should.
Okay, $666.
I was going to say you could buy an entire thrift, like the store itself, the thrift store, for $666.
You know, Danhausen, $666 if you've sworn today. People watching.
There you go. How do you want that? Cash or check or Twitter, whatever?
Yes, cash. Send it in cash. Undisclosed in an envelope.
So I imagine when you were growing up back in the day, you're sort of a similar age to us here at Cultaholic. You must have seen Stone Cold Steve Austin and people like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, he's great. Danhausen dresses as him sometimes for special occasions.
But the swearing and the finger and the
finger swears. It's quite all right.
Oh, it's all right for him to swear.
Yes, Stone Cold gets infinite swear passes.
Which other big wrestling stars get passes? Because I see Chris Jericho on AEW these days. He's dropping a few S-bombs here and there.
He gets no swear pass. Let's see. No Chris Judas you're talking about.
Chris Judas, yeah?
Yes, Chris Judas, no swear passes. Stone Cold Steve gets all infinite swear passes.
Oh.
Rock Dwayne Johnson gets all the swear passes. He's quite entertaining.
Quite.
And Kane. Kane gets all the swear passes, but he doesn't swear because he's a good boy.
Yeah. He's my favourite, Kane. I love Kane.
You love Kane?
Yeah, I love Kane.
I love Kane too. Danhausen loves Kane.
Who is your favourite wrestler?
Conan O'Brien.
When did he do the wrestling? That's the question I'm asking.
He wrestled Cassandro.
Oh,
during,
is that the Mexican?
Yes, one of his famous skits.
Ah, yes. I think I've seen that
Dresses as a luchador. Can I count him then? Because he wrestled once.
What about someone who's wrestled more than once?
Kane.
I'll take
Kane
that
and
answer.
Danhausen likes Sami Zayn. Quite nice.
Yeah.
And Kevin Owens. Those are Danhausen's favorites.
What do you think? Oh, let's have some serious wrestling talk. What do you reckon is Sami Zayn as a manager these days and not a wrestler?
Danhausen finds it quite mysterious that they would have one of their best wrestlers becoming a manager.
It is strange, isn't it?
If not the best wrestler, Danhausen thinks he might be.
He is. He's in the conversation.
I would say so.
He's one hell of a
I would
talker
say-
as well, though.
Yes, Danhausen loves Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn likes Seinfeld, I believe.
Do you go back with Sami Zayn? Do you know him personally or not?
I've met Sami Zayn one time in New York City, and Sami Zayn was quite nice to Danhausen. Gave him some good advice.
Just quite nice.
He was quite nice. Danhausen watched, I believe, Chris Dickinson kick another person with Sami Zayn standing next to him in New York City. Great time.
I'm going to be cheeky here. Do you want to share the advice he gave or just keep it to yourself?
I will share it because maybe a young wrestler will watch and listen. Sami Zayn told Danhausen, he was the swear though, he said, he said the S word, shows that even come to you because you might learn something.
Oh, that is
He
sound
said,
advice.
do all the good shows, do all the bad shows, do every show in between. Because something you'll benefit from it. And Danhausen agrees. Danhausen's teeth came from a smaller show, and Danhausen's tequila dance came from a smaller show.
Yeah, I've got to ask you, is that literally just from Pee Wee Herman?
Yes, Danhausen loves Pee Wee Herman.
So you start
He's
doing
nice
it in your-
because the dance stood up to a whole room of bikers.
It's an iconic scene.
Yes, now Danhausen's an icon. Isn't that nice?
I've got to ask as well, just in case people don't know, how did the teeth start?
Danhausen was trying to pull the teeth out of someone using, Daniel Bryan's surfboard stretch.
Yes.
Danhausen was replicating it and was trying to pull the teeth from his opponent's face. And then someone suggested, why don't you just give them teeth? And thus, Danhausen's teeth were born. Now Danhausen collects jars of teeth, shares them with his opponents in their mouth, and then kicks them in the face. And then that spreads the teeth joy across the audience.
That's what everyone wants is teeth joy.
That's what I thought, teeth joy.
And I don't think you've revealed it anywhere else, but I've got to ask, where do you get the teeth from?
Various places. David Arquette sent me some. Danhausen legally acquires them.
All right, then we'll move on.
Yes, next question.
So let's go. Let's hear the fourth here in Danhausen. What do you want fourth to go to hell?
Danhausen will send Warhorse.
I thought you were friends.
We are friends. Danhausen enjoys hell. He's sending him down there. The other ones are going to negative hell. Danhausen's sending Warhorse to vacation hell.
Oh, what's the vacation hell? Is that like Benidorm? You heard of Benidorm?
It's like cool hell, which is like where Slayer and sorts and the metal music that he listens to, it comes from. And then there's bad hell, where bad things go.
Ah.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Imagine Ozzy Osbourne would go to cool hell when he eventually
Yes,
passes
exactly.
away.
I believe in that movie, Danhausen's only seen it once because he didn't like it. Little Nicky movie. I believe there's cool hell.
Right. I've not seen that one myself, so I'll take your word
Yes,
for it.
no good. No good. Danhausen doesn't recommend it.
So is this the wisest thing to do, obviously, with your big WrestleVania show coming up?
Yes. We will have Warhorses providing the metal loud aspect of it with swearing, and Danhausen is providing the very nice, very evil aspects of it where everyone likes everything.
That's fair enough. So if you want
Yes.
to elaborate more on why you want to send him straight down to the cool hell? Any other reason?
Just give him a good time. I think it will straighten him out. He'll stop yelling so much.
Will it not make him even worse, being surrounded by similar things to him?
You think so?
It might. It's not, they say your personality is a good reflection of the people you share your company with, don't they?
Well, if he's with Satan, maybe he'll calm down. He'll see how terrible Satan acts sometimes.
He's worse than Satan.
He's worse than Satan. Have you ever watched his promotional videos?
I've seen a few, yeah.
He talks too loud.
Who doesn't, though? I work
So
with
he's
Tom
yelling.
Campbell.
I don't understand. Everyone's always yelling. Danhausen likes to talk. We're talking right now, having a regular conversation.
Yeah. And we're a million miles away from each other as well. It's wonderful, isn't it?
I know. Danhausen's never been in the UK. Where at?
You never been. You should come over.
No. Danhausen's trying. Danhausen's in talks with the billionaire corporations there.
You're going to have to name them because I don't know which ones they are. Which billionaire corporations are you in talks with?
Danhausen doesn't know their names. He forgot.
On a more serious note, though, have you tried to come over here and wrestle?
I would love to. Danhausen would love to do so.
So there we go. If promotions are watching, get the guy.
There's some, people will message Danhausen, but we just have to work something out. Danhausen's waiting for them to be able to get Bruce Moose together there to head overseas.
And then when you do, we can bring you in here and have you on the podcast with Matthew.
Yes, it's Danhausen's #1 goal this year is to get overseas to the UK.
That's a lovely goal to have. But I guess,
Yes.
I can't argue with you. Just let's just send the guy to hell. Why the hell not?
Exactly. And Danhausen would like to ask, do you know this cult,
Yes.
Schadenfreude, is that how you say?
Yes.
Do they take over everything there?
No, I think it's a very small thing that people. It's like, no, they don't take over everything. It's more like it's a small thing where people flock to. It's not
Like
released on
for
VHS or anything.
They're a cult, though, yes?
I think so. They keep it very secretive.
I'm glad we can agree that they are a cult. Schadenfreude is a cult.
I was just agreeing with you. I don't know if they're a cult or not.
Well, we'll see. I'm sure I'll get beaten up by them if they are.
They've certainly got a following, though.
Yes, they're quite nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yes, Chris Brooks is his name, and they have a werewolf on their team.
Mm-hmm.
Run.
So yeah, he's in hell. Let's move on. So let's hear it. The fifth and final offering, please, Danhausen. What are you sending down?
Ooh, this has to be a good one. Can Danhausen give himself a free trip to hell?
Danhausen can send himself to hell if he wants.
Perfect! Free trip. Then send Danhausen the flight info. And this is our new Cultaholic, Ross Tweddell.
Good God. We haven't got the budget for that.
No, Danhausen has another suggestion. When Danhausen is trying to sell his wares, please include your address. Danhausen would like to send you not sending your address straight to hell.
Right, that could... Wait, how the hell
It's
do you
quite a
resolve that?
pickle.
Yeah, it's the most important bit of the thing, apart from the
Those
money,
are
of course.
wrenching Danhausen's plans.
Yes, how many... that can't happen too often, surely.
Oh, it happens every single time.
Does it?
Every single time Danhausen must search like he's searching for Spock for the address of people who want goods.
I guess people just assume that because you're obviously Danhausen, you can do magical things like just find their email address. Well, sorry, their
Danhausen's
address.
all knowing, but Danhausen throws out people's addresses. Does not happen.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine that happening.
No, all
That's
the time.
baffling.
Danhausen loves you, but please include your address.
There you go. That's just a PSA for everybody watching. If you want to buy merchandise from Danhausen, just include your address.
Please, Danhausen sincerely loves you. He loves you all for buying and supporting, but please include your name and address.
So how do we buy things from you?
Usually Danhausen will put a sale up by himself with exclusive shirts strictly through Danhausen. Those are usually bought via PayPal, which is a nice service. Or Danhausen has little Danhausen buddies about this big or this big. They're stuffed animals of Danhausen through Super Fun 5000. And then Danhausen has a pro wrestling tees store, pro wrestling tees /Danhausen.
So obviously with the pro wrestling tees must deal with everything for you. For that sort of stuff, though. You must love pro wrestling tees for that when they don't send the addresses and whatnot.
That's true. Danhausen has to worry about none of it. Quite nice. Especially around the holiday season.
Yeah. Well, I've got nothing. I can't believe that's a thing that people do, to be honest with you. So I don't know what to say to you in regards to that.
You'd be surprised. I believe Danhausen believes that Ethan Egon Page deals with it as well.
I imagine all the wrestlers must deal with it.
Yes, this is a PSA for all fans to wrestlers. Just help us out a little bit. We don't have much time.
Listen to the man, or he will eat you. He might not eat you. Will you eat them?
I will steal your teeth if you do not put your address in.
You've been warned. So there we have Danhausen's 5 choices to get sent straight down to hell. Danhausen, before we go, do you have anything to plug? Just talk some words.
Yes, Danhausen will talk all of the words. Yes, go to WrestleMania in Tampa this year. WrestleMania will be very nice, very evil, unfortunately very loud, via Warhorse, as we have all known, if you follow him on Twitter. Yes, we'll have special surprises announced soon, hopefully. Right now, I believe we have Shazza McKenzie versus Alley Bat. Jake Somethinghausen has been announced. We have Warhorse is announced. Isn't that a surprise? Danhausen will be there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Who else have we announced? O'Shea Edwards. He's been announced. AC Mack. We'll have, yes, very nice things. Very soon, though, we'll tell you all the matches, I believe.
And I believe that kicks off at 1 minute to midnight, does it not?
No, that's the night before, I believe.
All right, that's
we have, wait. Is it at the same time?
I think so.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Our show is at midnight on Saturday.
Right.
We're ending the collective, I believe.
Yes.
So you have to come. It has to be sold out. Danhausen demands it.
You've been warned again. You'll steal your teeth if you don't go. And where can we find you on all the social medias and all that malarkey?
It's Twitter, Danhausen AD. We have Instagram, I believe, is the same thing. Danhausen AD. Danhausen has a Patreon where he has his own cooking show, his own talk show, and his own review show. Isn't that nice?
What do you cook?
Well, Danhausen has cooked spaghetti. I believe Danhausen will be cooking a hot pocket coming up.
Oh.
Soup. Danhausen has made his own soup.
Very exotic. What's in your soup?
Yeah, it's quite nice. Danhausen's a big fan of cooking shows and late night television.
Is it your own specific recipe? What's in your soup?
Yeah, well, you can put whatever you want in a soup. That's the beauty of it.
Teeth.
Danhausen, sprinkled in some, clown salt. I believe they're called sprinkles here. Yes, you put broth and ketchup and clown salt in there and whatever you want. Skittles, who cares?
God, what a lovely
You just
message.
have to boil it. Make sure you boil it. That's the number one rule of soup.
That's quite crucial, yeah. Yeah, what a lovely
Yes.
advert for soup. So if that's all you got to plug, Danhausen. If that's
Patreon.com/lovethatdanhausen.
There you go. Patreon, get involved. Right then, so Danhausen, thank you very much for doing this with us today.
Yes.
Satisfied
Everyone
with your
remember-
picks? Sorry?
Danhausen has one more plug.
Go on then.
Danhausen is good. Danhausen is great. You surrender your will as of this date. Love that, Danhausen.
See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can follow us on Twitter @Cultaholic. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. And if you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Cultaholic. Hit subscribe and join us.